Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meet a Scientist, sponsored by New Mexico EPSCOR. I'm your host, Tori, over at Explora Science Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Today, we have Mr. Mark Reymatias, who is a graduate research assistant and current PhD student of Nanoscience and Microsystems engineering at the University of New Mexico. All right, and would you go ahead and just start telling us a little bit about what you do?
Yes, thank you, Tori. I am a PhD student, as you already introduced me to. I also do a little bit of work in all kinds of engineering aspects, but for the most part, I am currently working with Dr. Mark Reymatias' research group at the Center for High Technology Materials at the University of New Mexico. That's currently located on South Campus. So I dabble in several fields, but most of my work can be found working with quantum dots, which is a field of nanotechnology, and also photonics. I also work a little bit in material science and in microfluidics. And microfluidics is currently the focus of my PhD.
That's so exciting. So you dabble in a lot. Do they go together well, or are they separate parts?
That's the fun part. I like being able to bridge all the connections together. So that we'd like to say that they're all apart, but truly, as we've discovered in science, that not everything is standalone. So officially, I would say they're actually connected.
Okay, but it's got a little bit of a puzzle quality to it.
Yes.
So what do you find most interesting about your work, or do you have an example of a recent research project that was just really exciting for you?
Some of the more interesting parts of my work include the ability to tie it together to multiple fields. So my work with quantum dots actually ties to more than just the field of photonics. It can tie to biomedicine, biological applications. Quantum dots can be used to essentially highlight working parts of our body at the nano scale. So if you imagine that you have some sort of flashlight, right? And you are able to shine it on any part of the human body and then minimize that flashlight to the smallest part that you can see, and then minimize it again by another 1,000 times. And then you have the ability to shine some form of beacon on what you'd like to be able to see. And that's something that you can now blow up, show the world, say, hi, that's in my body. It's working right now. And that's what I think is quite interesting and as part of my work. That's one of the more interesting parts. And there's several more, but I'd like to highlight that. And what was your second question? I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. Will you tell us a little bit about your career pathway? Did you always think that you were going to be in this field, in this line of work?
To be honest, no. When I started out trying to become an executive of business, but I realized that early on in my career path, specifically in high school, I took a class in chemistry, and one of the classes in chemistry introduced me to nanotechnology. And we were supposed to look for emerging fields of science, and especially with chemistry. And one of the pictures that I thought was the most influential was a picture of a robot building tinier robots and tinier robots and tinier robots. It's not as simple as that, but it was one of the quintessential hallmarks of nanotechnology and the production of stuff at the nano scale. So I found that to be quite influential in pivoting me from a business acumen towards an actual career in science. It was not a straight line, to be honest. I actually had my bachelor's in science in material science and engineering at the Institute of Technology in Illinois. So it's Illinois Institute of Technology. And then I became a metallurgist. And after about 6 months as a metallurgist, I decided that the world was too big for me to stay in one small part of Rockford, Illinois, which is where I was working at. So I came to University of New Mexico. I had some trouble finding funding for supporting my academic career. So I had to transfer out to California, and then I found another position there as an assembly technician. And now here I am as a PhD student. I came back after finding the funding and working and becoming a graduate research assistant with Dr. Mark Reymatias' research group. So I still don't know if I want to be an academic, but I sure want to be a scientist. Uh, I still want to go to space as an astronaut. That's for sure.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
And that's great that you kept going through the hurdles and to find something that you want to do, and you still don't know. The options are still open, and that's just really great to see. You can keep doing other things, and I'm sure you learned things you didn't know that you would learn with these obstacles that came up and going to different schools and getting these connections.
Absolutely. It's important to have an open mind about where you might be going.
And knowing that now, is there any advice you would have given your 10-year-old self?
Sometimes if you find that the going is harder, it might be either A, you're doing the right thing, or B, it might be time to try a different thing. You never know until you've tried both.
So are there any final thoughts that you wanted to get across to our audience today?
Yes. So one of the more hidden parts about science is the shoulders of the giants that we stand on, and the fact that those giants have had to overcome multiple failures. And these giants have had to, when I say giants, I mean scientists like Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, the big physics giants, and obviously the more the heroes that are now currently working as scientists in the laboratories today. All of these scientists, including myself, have to deal with failures from time to time. And there are strategies to recognize failures as opportunities. These opportunities can help us learn, improve, adapt, and overcome. And we can apply these kinds of strategies to pretty much all parts of our lives. So one story I could probably share with how we can deal with failure is that one of my rounds of quantum dot synthesis, we had 5 months. It's 5 full months of planning for one synthesis. The synthesis would take only about like 12 hours, but we'd still have to go through 5 months of planning. And we performed our first synthesis after testing out all we tried going over all parts of the procedure. We didn't even use reagents for our first dry run, as we would call it. But once we did the synthesis, one of the apparatus parts slipped, and it pretty much turned the entire batch foul. That was what failure, when we found out that we needed to work out for that. So sometimes hammering things in is the solution. Other times you need to find other ways to circumnavigate or adapt to the solution. We call those things risks. We call those things failures. We call those things opportunities. It's important that we get from risk past, hopefully we don't have to experience the actual failure, but we identify those risks as opportunities.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your exciting field and how you got there.